Microphone, please.
Okay, folks, it's now 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Welcome any and all guests. And if anybody has anything they would like to comment on that is unrelated to an agenda item, I'm going to ask you to do it now. And if you are, please come up to the microphone and do so.
Thank you.
None being seen, Scott. Any changes to the agenda?
I have no changes for you.
All right, so we're going to go right to the minutes, May 7th. We'll have a motion to accept the minutes of May 7th.
So moved.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have motion second. All those in favor to approve the minutes of May 7th, all say aye.
Aye.
All right, Scott, back to you.
Under action items, the select board to possibly appoint Tanya Howling to the beautification committee for the remainder of a 4-year term expiring in 2027. And Tanya is here along with the members of the beautification committee.
Thank you. I don't think we're going to have a lot of debate on this, folks. All right. Except, you know, the 2020, what is it? Expires 2027. It probably should be 2032. No? Okay, I'm just suggesting. Okay. Okay. All right.
Don't we have a question and answer period to find out?
Yes. All right, so I move that we appoint Tanya Howling to the beautification committee for the remainder of the 4-year term expiring in 2027.
Second.
All right, we have motion and second to appoint Tanya Howling to the beautification committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Tanya, you are on board. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Thank you. The
Hey,
select,
Ted, you can mention to Amy too that we have other openings too, Tanya. Just kidding. All right.
the select board to possibly appoint Cheryl LaFlamme to the planning commission for the remainder of a 4-year term expiring in 2028. And I see that we have Mr. Moore with us as the chair.
Matthew, could you come up for a second?
And Cheryl on the
I don't know.
Zoom.
I set it up, so.
The recommendation is Cheryl's going to be appointed to the planning commission, not as the chair. The chair is representing Matthew, but she will be there to assist in writing or rewriting or updating the town plan. Okay. We're looking for direction. She did the last one. Right. Anyone have any questions? Well, that's the case. How about a motion, folks?
Make a motion, we appoint Cheryl LaFlamme to the planning commission for the remainder of a 4-year term expiring 2028.
All right. Do you have a second?
Second.
Oh, we have motion and second to appoint Cheryl LaFlamme to the planning commission for the remainder of the 4-year term expiring in 2028. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Cheryl, you're back in it. You're back in
Thank
it.
you so much. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, excited. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome, Cheryl. Thank you, Select.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
The next item is housekeeping. The select board to possibly approve the assessor's request for a 30-day extension. File the grand list under Title 32 Vermont Statutes annotated 4342. Had a conflict tonight, so couldn't come, but this is a routine kind of thing for him. And he may not need the entire 30 days. And but wants to be sure that he has it.
You want a motion?
Yes, please.
We approve the assessor's request for a 30-day extension to file the grand list under 32 VSA 4342.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
All right, we have motion and second to approve the 30-day extension to file for the grand list under 32 VSA 4342. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Just you.
The next, the select board to possibly approve a vendor change to Ford of Greenfield for the purchase of the 2024 F600 highway truck. And Marshall Dix is here to explain that. Marshall Dix is here.
He remembered my name too. Back in November, you guys approved the bid that we got for a truck. about 3 weeks ago, the dealer called me. They folded. They went out. The truck that we had on order is nowhere to be found. So I went to the dealership that we purchased the last pickup from, and they're able to get one. They actually got it already to match the color. Has 95% of the stuff that we wanted. It's got a couple less luxury things. So the truck's actually going to end up cheaper, less expensive than what you approved already. So what we're asking is us to be able to purchase it from somebody else.
What did we approve before? How much was that? This is 39.
43,000 and change.
Okay,
But this is less, correct?
This is less.
That's, we like to hear cheap.
3,000.
Yeah.
So it isn't more money. So
4,000 less, so.
Okay, all right.
Is it of equal quality?
yeah, so it's the next grade down package. So it's missing a couple trim items, which
Like
are
what?
not a big deal. Like what? So one of them that stands out is a heated seat, but they can live without a heated seat.
Okay.
Don't they have
Aluminum
any
wheels.
add-ons?
Aluminum wheels we're gonna go without, which we have them both ways now. That's the big cost difference, is the aluminum wheels, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right. All right, before he changes his mind again, can we have a motion? All we're doing is changing vendors, by the way. We've already approved the money.
I make a motion, we approve the vendor change to Ford of Greenfield for the purchase of the 2024 F600 highway truck.
All right, we have a second?
Second.
All
We
right,
don't
we have-
need the amount.
One of us.
No, we already voted on the
The
amount.
amount. Okay, so we're just
Uh,
getting less. Okay.
We have a motion and a second to change the vendor to Ford of Greenfield, for the purchase of the 2024 F600 work truck. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Marshall.
Thanks, Marshall.
Number 4, this is the FY23 audit that you were issued. The select board to receive an overview of the FY23 audit from Sullivan and Powers. Rick Brigham is on Zoom, and I would imagine we would like Christine to come up, offer any comments or something. Mr. Chairman, how would you like to proceed?
Rick, welcome aboard, number one, and number two is, I believe there's going to be a few questions for you.
Okay, yep, that's no problem. If we can do that either way. We can have the questions while I go through it, or we can do it at the end. Really your call on that. But I can just start at least going through things, and if somebody wants to jump in with a question, I'd be glad to answer it during my presentation.
Okay, all right, so Rick, I'm gonna turn it over to you then. Why don't you
Okay,
take-
sounds good. So yeah, there's what you should have in front of you is your audit report for the year. It's obviously a rather substantial document, 55 pages, a lot of information in there. So a lot of things go into this during the year, from the board to the manager to the finance department, passing policies, recording transactions, recording payroll, reconciling accounts, all that stuff that builds up to this financial statement at the end of the year. My charge is really, as your auditor, is to come in and look at the work, look at the reconciliations, confirm cash accounts, test transactions, test invoices, all that kind of audit information that we go through to come up to what we call the auditor's opinion. So if you're looking at pages 1 through 4 of the report, that is really my charge, is this opinion. So we actually, I do have some clients who prepare the financials. We do help Christine prepare these financials. So, but as far as my charge and what I'm responsible for, it's to come up with this opinion. So when we do an audit opinion, we have 3 possibilities: an adverse opinion, meaning the financial statements aren't fairly stated; a qualified opinion, meaning the financials are fairly stated, except for this or except for that. And then there'd be an unqualified opinion with no qualifications at all. In the course of the audit, we did have a couple of minor, what I would call minor qualifications. One of them was related to discussion of the transfer station and us being able to reconcile the completeness of the transactions at the transfer station. We thought there should be better controls there. We actually seen a lot of places go I'm actually collecting cash at the transfer station. And I even locally, my local Casella is now doesn't take any cash. It's all credit cards and, or some places do it offsite, right? Or buy tickets and tokens at the town offices. So we just think it's not that we're saying your transfer station revenues aren't right. They probably are right. It's just we can't verify the completeness of it. So we had to qualify the opinion for that. As far as the, we have in one of our recommendations in the back, we did discuss some ideas for the transfer station. And I know the manager and Christine have already responded to how they want to deal with trying to make sure that we can deal with completeness of the transfer station revenues. The other qualification was just more of again, an entity kind of thing. A new auditor comes in, kind of takes a fresh perspective at things. And when we coming in, one of the things we looked at was we didn't see the library books to be included with the town. Sometimes that can happen if it's a separate 501c3. They're not, they have their own finances, they have their own revenue streams and stuff like that. There was nothing that was indicated to us that because the trustees are voted at the town meetings, there's a substantial amount of town contributions. It really felt like the library books should be incorporated into the town audit. So at this point, we've kind of left that in Christine's hand and the manager's hands to kind of figure out if they can meet with them, say, hey, let's just get the auditor the books. We'll include it in the report, and then that qualification goes away. It's just making sure to account for all the resources of the town. But other than that, those were the only two qualifications related to the report. Kind of going on, if you're looking at pages 7 and 8. So this is the balance sheet and the income statement of the town for the fund financials. So this lists your three major funds is the general fund, highway, economic development, and the fire department funds, 4 funds. So those are your 4 major funds based on some calculations based on assets, revenues, expenses, so on. So those if you're looking at page 7, that is basically a snapshot in time at June 30th, 2023 of what your cash assets and liabilities. And then at the bottom, you can see your offsetting fund balances for each of those funds, with general fund having a total fund balance of $701,961, the highway fund $250,662, the economic development $1,457,000, and obviously the fire department at $278,000. That's how those funds ended the year. And if you're looking at the next page, you can see the revenues and expenses for each of those funds and how they drove up from last year's fund balance to the new year fund balances. If we're looking at, again, same kind of thing, if you're looking at pages 9 and 10, these are your enterprise funds, your water and sewer funds. Again, snapshot in time of your cash basis assets and liabilities. The fund balances of the sewer were 264, 239. Water fund had 218,079 at the end of the year. Again, both those fund balances increased from the year. If you're looking at page 10, the sewer fund went up by 88,000 and the water fund went up by about 106,000 during the year. So if you're looking for a deeper dive into the audit report, into the numbers, into some of the fund balances, the restrictions, the reclassifications of fund balance, pages 13 through 34 are what we call the notes to the financial statements. So in there, you're going to find a lot more documentation about cash being collateralized, or what are our debt agreement terms. When are we paying it back? What are the interest rates? What are our fund balances can be used for? What were the transfers between the funds and what were they for? So I'm not going to go page by page into these, but if you're looking for a deeper dive into some of the information related to the balance sheet numbers as well as the income and expense numbers, these footnotes have a lot of information there. A couple other things I was going to just kind of thumb through. So you've probably seen them throughout the year. If you're looking at pages 35 through 41, that is your budget actual for the general fund. And that basically shows you what happened during the year from your revenues and expenses from your budgets to your actuals. You know, the things that kind of stuck out to me on last year was that you got a miscellaneous grant in there that was not budgeted for about 56,000. You got some investment income that was way above what was projected. And you had some other land sale redemptions for about 22,000. That pretty much made up a lot of the a favorable variance because you were budgeted to lose 500,000 and you only lost 232,000. So that was a net positive to the fund balance of 267,450. And you could do the same thing looking at the highway fund on pages 42 and 43. Again, budget actual, nothing really stuck out to me too much. It looked like the health insurance was underspent. There was some, again, a grant income that was unbudgeted for, and that pretty much made up most of the variances related to that. And if you're looking for, if you're wanting to see any of the other funds, then there obviously you have a lot of them: law enforcement fund, police equipment fund, police department, conflict fund, all those funds are in the back. We've broken them out into pages 44 through 51. We break them out into special revenue funds, which usually are grant funded projects. And then there's capital projects, which are obviously for capital projects, things that are in capital in nature. And so those funds, if you're looking for, again, the balance sheet of the fund, any one of those funds, or the income statement for each of those funds and what happened for activity during the year, you can find those on those pages, like I said, 44 through 51. And so then again, on the pages 54 through 55, one of the responsibilities as part of your audit is that we've come up with material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We need to report them in writing. The ones that we believe were the material weaknesses related to the transfer station revenues. Again, that was just we've already kind of talked about that a little bit and where we think that should be going. The only other thing that we thought was obviously a material adjustment on our part was the bond bank, when you had some bond proceeds, was sitting in an account that's in your name at the bond bank. And so that account was never on your audit. And so putting that on the books was obviously a substantial adjustment. And whenever we have that kind of adjustment, you have to kind of have a point that goes with it. So basically the long and short of that is, if you have bond proceeds that come from the bond bank, in the old days, they used to just send you the whole bit of money that you're bonded for. But now they only give you portions out of that account when you start submitting bills and so on and so forth. But that account is actually in your name, so that cash belonged on your books. We did mention a couple other recommendations. They're not required to be in writing, but we did talk with them, with Christine, related to the doing a fraud risk assessment. All that is doing town personnel sitting down, realizing where could fraud be occurring within the organization. How do we put controls in to offset it? It's just, again, something we always recommend to our clients, to internally look at your processes and make sure you're accounting for any sort of areas that could go wrong. A lot of times, you know, when I'm dealing with frauds, recreation revenues or transfer stations, parking garages, parking meters, where there's cash coming in, there's some risks there that we like to try to minimize as much as possible. And one of the other things we've talked about, and I think I've even shared examples with Christine on the documentation of the internal control system. We think that you have good controls and processes. We would just like to see a written document that outlines all your controls and processes into key controls by area: payroll, disbursements, receipts, taxes, all that kind of stuff. And so I think we have shared examples with that. And if not, Christine, I can definitely send you it again. So. And then there's just, again, an accounting procedures manual, which kind of goes in line with the internal control manual, but it's a little bit more detailed, so that new staff coming in know, Jesus, this is how I pay bills. This is how I pay payroll. It's all written down in steps so that new people don't have to go recreate the wheel and figuring out how to get things done. So we think that would be a good thing to have in place as well. And then the last thing was, when you're dealing with any federal grants, There's new uniform guidance policies that they like you to have in place that relate to obviously procurement, conflict of interest, allowable costs. Again, I think I've sent examples of those to management there, but I can always send those again. We just think that having those policies when you're dealing with any grants that you might be getting, whether it's, you know, FEMA storm related or bike path grants, all those kind of things, having those policies in place is a really good idea for adhering to the uniform guidance requirements. So overall, the audit went very smoothly as far as the work with Christine and the staff there, but there obviously took a little longer in trying to coordinate a lot of the work from the previous auditors. We were trying to tie a lot of information back from last year's records per the NEMRIC accounting system to the actual audit report, and that took a little longer than expected. But we've cleaned that all up. We've cleaned up a lot of the funds to make sure that they're in the right groups where they belong, whether capital, special revenue, or belonging as part of general according to the standards. So I feel like we've done everybody's kind of on the same page now as far as what your financial reporting looks like and how it's going to be going forward. And I think we're at a good place right now. And again, I want to thank all the staff there for the help during the audit. I know it was a little longer, a little harder, more arduous than they were expecting, but I think we got to a good place in the end.
Questions?
So looking at the material weaknesses,
Yep.
What's our response for the transfer station revenue material weakness? I mean, what have we done? What are we going to implement?
So some of the conversation that we had internally and in talking with Rick was that the object of the audit of the auditor, the position of the auditor, is to bring the risk to light. And in response to that, the question is, in some cases, in some towns, I'm told they're doing exactly what we're doing. The town understands
Scott,
the risk.
I understand what an audit is. What I'm asking is, what is management's response to the recommendation?
I'm suggesting to you that what we're doing is happening in other places. And at the same time, one of the recommendations was to be sure that there's a receipt punched in for every ongoing transaction that we've implemented. And I simply need to follow up with a memorandum. The question on going to all credit cards didn't make sense to us. The question on tickets and those kinds of things creates more work and attention and things of that nature. We're not sure that that would reduce the risk either, because a lot of what we do is based on trust in individuals and employees when taking cash. We take cash not only at the transfer station, but at other points within our system. But currently, we feel that making sure that the attendant is punching in a receipt for everybody and handing a receipt or offering a receipt makes a lot of sense, because we do take cash there and checks.
Is that now the policy, or is it going to be the policy?
It is now verbally the policy, and I'm going to follow up with a memorandum. I want to have this meeting first.
Okay.
And that is a conversation that we held with the attendant and with Marshall.
Okay. And when do you think you have that done?
The memorandum?
Yeah.
Well, I can issue the memorandum this week.
Okay.
But it is in place because we verbally put it in place.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just simply add, I think COVID made a huge impact on the transfer station, because for a long period of time up there too, we weren't really interacting with people at the transfer station. So there was none of that receipt and verbal conversation. So I think it's just going back to really what we had been doing, why we have the cash register up there, so receipts can be done. And I did visit the transfer station, and I will say that Ken has been offering a receipt the last 2 times I've been up there. So I think we're definitely moving in the right direction.
And reconciliation on the cash takes place weekly. And if there are discrepancies that we can't account for, Jessica has an immediate conversation, not only with me, but with Marshall, to see if we can understand what occurred. Most of it we feel has been human error when it's occurred, and it's been less and less lately. So we had a change in personnel, and that accounts for some of it.
I know we got the token program for the longest time. Whatever happened to that?
It was long before I.
Was it before? Was that long ago?
Yeah. Or maybe I haven't been here.
Mom's been around a while.
I've never heard of
Oh,
Neither have
on the Mayflower, we always used it.
There are some towns that
Uh,
do the token or the punch card, but I mean, you're still dealing with cash.
And a lot of people do that. And now, of course, you know what I pay with every week, my $3 check. Okay.
I do the same
Right.
thing. I write a check
Right,
myself.
you know, I write the check because that's my receipt, and I've done that for forever, even though it's only $3.
When Ken offers you a receipt, please take it.
Well, he doesn't have to. I've got the receipt. and
No,
I don't wanna
when
do
Ken
that.
offers you the receipt, take it.
Okay, well, he hasn't offered me a receipt because he knows it was my check. That's all. You know. he knows
Well,
it.
I think Christine's point to that is one of our recommendations. If you're going to not do the credit card, you're not going to go the other area. We've worked with transfer stations in the past where we've said, listen, post a sign, customer must take a receipt. That way, you know, if the customer's getting a receipt every single time, now you know it's in the system. If they're not, if they're just giving it out occasionally, then you don't know what ever got in the system. So it's a way, like I know at baseball games, they used to do that. They would, you know, if you didn't get a receipt, you got a free drink. So
Hey, Rick, let me ask you, did you just do an audit up in Dover?
I wasn't part of that, but yeah, I think my
Was
firm
it
did a
your company?
review.
Was it Sullivan and Powers?
Yes.
Because that's keeps on making the newspaper here about what are they going to do with their landfill? The same thing.
Yeah.
So you've started a trend, Rick. Thanks for ruining our lives, okay?
I've heard that many times, unfortunately.
Okay,
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Speaking about ruining our
Yep.
lives.
all right.
Parking meters you brought up?
Yep.
No, he did not.
He didn't bring up parking meters?
Yes, he did.
He said like parking.
All right.
Well, I said where fraud risks could occur, that's, you know, those are the normal ones I've seen in places is parking meters and transfer stations, parking
I know
garages,
what's coming.
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The apps, I think, and taking money now, yeah.
And what are we doing?
The apps very
Library?
much help.
Are
What's
we
that?
changing anything about the library or
So,
the other recommendations?
the library had come up and I actually talked with Louis, who does the library books, and he's on board for this, at the end of this fiscal year, to turn over his paperwork so that they can audit that. I believe they have a meeting coming up in June that I'm gonna go and talk to the board just so that they're
Right.
all on the same page as well, but Louis had no objection to it at all. When we had the conversation while Rick was here, it was one of those things where I kind of felt that it was a little late to try and get the information from the library at that point. And so we figured if we started it with this new year, then we would be in good shape.
When there was news about libraries in general,
Yes.
we began that conversation, and then we continued the conversation with Rick as a new auditor, so.
Okay. All right, this is a work in progress, I guess. That's.
And I mean, that's my impression. I mean, I've worked with Rick before and they're great. I love working with them. And there is always something that they find that they would like us to improve upon. And that's, so yeah, it's a work in progress.
I
Every year
noticed-
will
I
be a
noticed
work in
this, yeah.
progress.
Anyone else have any questions?
Well, yeah, I do.
Oh, go right ahead.
We haven't gone through other material weaknesses yet. Bond proceeds. Your recommendation is we recommend the town implement controls to ensure that bond proceeds and associated cash accounts are reported properly. What are we doing to address that?
So, bond proceeds was one of those things I was thinking of it more of as just a loan and not thinking about the fact that we were earning interest on our money. So I did not put into the NEMRIC system the cash part of that. We now have that set up. Of course, that bond is finished at this point too. It's just a different knowledge and thinking about it in a different way than I have in the past. Like Rick said, a lot of times in the past, you get a bond, you just get all the money. You don't have a separate savings account that they put your money into and then dole it out in increments. So it's a different process than I had dealt with previously.
The process was reimbursement. So every time we had about on a monthly basis, they would reimburse us for what we were expending on the project. And I think in talking Christine, this is the way she had done previous bonds.
And again, to be fair, that's how old bonds were done years and years ago when you didn't have your own cash account at the bond bank. They would just give you the money. So it is a little different process. I think the best way to deal with it from your perspective as the board is when we do those control manuals, there can be a little piece in there that talks about any new bonds, the proceeds will be booked into the NEMRIC system. And I think you'll cover yourself right there.
Great. The fraud risk assessment, are we going to conduct one? Those recommendations.
Yeah, that is our intention. Actually, I am gonna need to get some stuff from you, Rick, on.
Absolutely. I'd be glad to give you some
for
samples.
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, Scott and I have talked about it, and it's definitely something that we've already started some of the process, but it's gonna be a big process, and we'll get it done as soon as we can. We're hoping maybe to get it started before the end of this fiscal year or at the beginning of the next fiscal year at least. So by the time we get through the next audit, we will have some things in place, if not everything.
Okay.
So in terms of federal grants, they ask a lot of these questions with respect to policies and procedures. We've been able to provide an adequate amount because we have not been turned down. But I think Rick brings up a good point. It's time to refresh and upgrade the policies that we have and add additional policies that we may not have.
Okay. And documentation of internal control system?
I think, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that speaks to policies and procedures.
Well, this one is actually more just about specific controls over all the areas, whether it's payroll, disbursements. It outlines the key controls, how it's documented, so that anybody, a grantor or a person, a staff member, can see what are the key controls of the organization. Like I said, I have shared a couple of examples with Christine, which I think if you read the document or read the examples, you'll see exactly what we're looking for and what actually federal grantors are looking for.
So it'll be on our goal list. What's the goals to achieve?
Okay. And then uniform guidance policies?
Yeah, that's that same thing. That's basically
Yeah, I
making
mean,
sure all your policies are
that's
updated.
pretty much all of those are,
Okay.
they're on the list, and we're gonna start where we
Plugging
can
away.
start and
Yeah.
just work on them as much as we can to try and get them in place. Like I said, as many as we can in place before we get into the next audit, which we've already scheduled for September. So-
Right. And then the final one is accounting and procedures manual. And I think at least the most important recommendations, we also recommend that the town make sure that there are no jobs related to accounting and finance that only one person knows how to perform.
Exactly, and that's part of the manual to create that document so that somebody knows exactly how to do it, and people can cross-train and cross-do other people's work so that there isn't a problem with people not being there. So I think, yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, so I do have an accounting procedures manual. I think the point is that I need to add to it, upgrade it. It's something that I've changed a little bit over time, but yes, we've worked for several years. I have a person who does the reconciliation in addition to mine. I have Jess who knows how to do payroll and AP. We are a very small town, so there is an issue with trying to have everything that I do be backed up by somebody else, as it is with any position in this town. I mean, we don't have backups for Jess for the website. We don't have backups for Jess in the Jessica Roberts in the zoning, or Sarah in the assessor's office. So the one thing with my job is I've always said we have NEMRIC. And if something in that proverbial bus hit me, NEMRIC would be able to probably step in for a fee, but they would definitely be able to step in and do a lot of what I do to keep the town running, in addition to what Jess and others can already do.
Do a lot, but not all.
And that's the thing with any job, you know.
There are some things that like Christine does that's part of payroll, but only so often, and if
Yeah, I mean,
she doesn't remind me.
We
I'm
don't
not
have
gonna be here
anybody
this
that can
week,
do the
has to be done, I
W-2s.
would
If something
remember.
happens to me in January, no, I don't have a backup in here that could do the W-2s. We would have to have NEMRIC do that because they would know how to do that. But that's the
But they
nice
can do
thing.
it.
That's the nice thing about NEMRIC is they
Okay.
could do a backup of pretty much everything that I do. They wouldn't have as much background history, but they can do that.
Payroll and paying bills are covered.
Covering, yeah, paying the quarterly, taking care of your quarterly reporting, your 941s and all that stuff, your state of Vermont reportings. That would be something that you would have to reach out to NEMRIC because it's just not something that we can have a second person that knows everything.
Well, thank you. Just one final comment, which is I hope to see a unqualified opinion for the next fiscal year.
So you'll remember that we had the old auditor firm come in last year because we sort of anticipated there would be changes. And I think this is not unusual and nor is this unexpected. So.
And I will say, like, the bond proceeds thing, I said, all of that was done under Slov Cody. And there was no comment about changing how I had done it. So some of it, I think, is just the difference between audit firms too. But like I said, I love working with Sullivan Powers and Rick because they do, they help you to be better. And I like that.
Great. Thank you.
Rick, any last comments?
No, like I said, I was very happy with how everything went, and I totally expect this year to go even smoother, and look forward to working with you guys again this year.
You won't sleep at night. Okay, all right. Scott, let's go to the one.
Thank you, Rick. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Take
Thank you,
care.
Rick.
Bye-bye.
But next up on your agenda is 1% local option tax. The select board to possibly approve a 1% request from the chamber for 4th of July fireworks in the amount of $12,000.
Hey, Beth.
How are you guys?
Yes, Beth.
So I submitted the budget and the proposal for fireworks this year. It is up a little bit from last year. Fireworks are expensive. They continue to be increasingly expensive. And we also have just over the last couple of years haven't been able to break even on this event. The attendance is growing, which is really great. I think it's a nice mix of a community event, but also an event that attracts a lot of tourists, and a lot of businesses rely on it. So that's why you see this increase. It's just to help the chamber break even on the event, cover the cost of the porta potties and the police and all the other pieces that go into making it a fun event for both tourists and community members alike. You know, if you guys have any questions on the budget or if there's anything in particular you want me to dig into.
Is it the same vendor?
It is the same vendor, and my hope is that they hold the line here. Like, I think coming out of COVID, we saw steady increases, but now it's been 3 years. My third year.
You know, it still isn't bad. Well, that
Yeah.
still isn't bad. When I think of even 10, 11 years ago, what it was, I mean, this isn't a bad increase. Everything is increased
I
like
know.
crazy.
It's wild. And last year they did a really nice job. It was almost so long that people were starting to be like, is it going to end soon? But because of the fires in Canada, they had to do them lower. So I think they stretched them out. But it's been a great company to work with for that reason. They really want to make sure we're getting our money's worth and we keep coming back to them.
So who sponsors this?
So we've got annual sponsors that help cover the cost here for Valley Real Estate, Peak Radio, the Hermitage Club. There's a third. And then we'll try to get some smaller sponsors to chip in as well, especially because it is a community event. I think we can, we're trying to work with some of like DV Fiber or Duncan Cable, Casella, because they're newer, to just give us some money to help meet that. And then as if you've been there, you've seen that our cotton candy sales are quite significant.
The line is extensive.
Well, that's good.
So we will,
I've done that before.
Doctor will love that too.
we will continue to do that.
All pretty colors and blowing stuff up. How can you go wrong?
Yes.
If there's no more questions, would somebody like to make a motion?
I just want to say that I'm going to recuse myself from this because I'm on the chamber now, so. I'm not gonna
Oh,
vote.
my goodness, huh?
I make a motion, we approve the $12,000 requested for the fireworks.
Second.
All right, how about a second?
Yes.
All right, we have motion and second to approve the request for the Chamber of Fourth of July fireworks in the amount of $12,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry,
John.
you're
Done.
I didn't know.
Man,
And thank you for your support, not
Yeah,
only for
good.
this event, but all of our events. We continue to see really tremendous growth, and it's because we have support of both.
Just keep
This
bringing them
town.
into town.
We will.
That's right. It's-
We will.
Let's get them here. Get them here.
I think it's due in large part to your leadership, so thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. Have a good night.
You too.
from my childhood. And they're illegal.
I've sat on a lot of committees in my life, okay? Back in 1988, I joined the chamber, but they wanted me on.
It was very difficult.
So that's where it was, apologize. It was the worst experience. of my
I read that.
life.
It was in the paper, I think, this
Anyway,
past week.
You
I got arrested.
You what? You know what?
Didn't sound like you saw him, though.
No, he sued the town. It's in Warren.
What the
That was
heck? Okay,
amazing.
I'm sorry. All right. I move that we go into liquor commission. We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are in the liquor commission. Scott?
The select board to possibly approve a first and third class renewal for Maple Leaf Tavern, a first and third class and outside consumption renewal for 19 South Main Restaurant, a second class renewal for Starfire Bakery, and a first, second, and third class and outside consumption renewal for the Hermitage Club.
Right, is Starfire, is that West Main? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anybody have any questions? And I'm sure the chief has looked at all of these,
Yeah,
correct?
we haven't had any issues with renewals this year.
Okay. I think we can do this with one motion if it's okay. How about it, Tony?
So moved.
Huh?
Yeah.
Geez,
With
how
one.
about a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve all that has been presented to us for renewal of liquor licenses. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? All right, other business.
We are out of the liquor commission.
We are out of the liquor commission. How's that?
Under other business, I need a tax sale representative who does not expect to do any business at the auction.
I'll do it.
Giving up, huh?
No, I did it before. I'll be happy to do it.
No, I mean, not,
I'm buying stuff?
yeah.
Ooh. Let me think about it for a second. Nope. What's
Okay.
the day of the tax sale again, please?
June 20th.
Thank you.
It'd be here at noon time.
Here?
Yes.
Not down the street?
Nope.
Oh, my. What changes over there? June.
Okay, all right.
We're gonna
that's
cram
terrific.
everyone in and not turn on the AC.
June
20th,
Thursday at,
Noon.
noon.
thank you. I appreciate your going over it a few times. In case I run into you at the banks.
Uh-huh.
All right, all right.
Oh, we want to see that?
Select
I'm not doing that.
persons, comments, board members. Tony, anything you want to talk about?
Nope. Thank you for asking.
Vincent,
No, thank
John?
I know where that is.
A couple of things. Just want to note that the RB will be interesting hearing on a helipad on Man Road.
Someone called me about that today.
I'm sure they have. It'll be a very interesting hearing. That's all I'll say at this point. But
What's the date on it?
next month,
Next Monday.
next Monday.
The first Monday.
As long as they don't have Iranian pilots. that's it.
Third.
Third.
It's just,
Okay, all
it's
right,
our
that's
first
it.
helipad in town.
Okay, good.
June 3rd.
The other thing,
2 Mondays was June 4th.
Yes.
serving on Wilmington Works Board, One of the questions we get a lot about is what's happening with Memorial Hall. And it would be great to get an update on Memorial Hall,
It's in my comments.
including the construction.
It's in my comments.
Oh, excellent. Good timing.
We're on the same wavelength.
That's good. And now Stevens Associate was doing the work, the assessment of how to fix that building.
They did your original, I think, free assessment. I'm not sure if it was free or not, but they did the original assessment from which, when I first came on, I went with that, with Gretchen to his office. And when we explained what we had done already to the building, like, no good deed goes unpunished. So the building had been insulated in the basement. His eyes got this big and said, the way the water inundation works in that building is it goes in and out because there was no insulation.
Oh.
So we're trying to fix that.
Is there a plan?
Pam Hodgman, yes, there's one.
No, is there documentation
Of,
of how to fix the basement?
yes,
Okay.
I have, so his firm, because we agreed to this, this goes back. Pam Hodgman was working for him at the time, and he was the architect who Sullivan and Powers sent this way for this project. There's an entire plan for stabilizing the building and
That's what I thought.
creating water, we call ports.
Right. That's what I thought.
lack of a better word for it. So it's an engineering feat is what I call it, because
Okay.
we believe we're going to get a grant. I'll tell you more about it in my comments. We believe we're going to get a grant, and we've done some things in order to move that process along. Recently, I hadn't heard in a while, but I heard recently, so it sounds like we're getting to a point where they're going to give us the money. Of course, remember when we started this, it's probably 2 years ago, so I'm hoping that the material costs and the labor costs hold up, but we won't know until we go out to bid. So once that is accomplished, we also received but one time we got a grant to have the building surveyed by another architect. And so we have a little booklet that tells us what things he thinks we ought to do. At any rate, one of the things when we get into the basement part is there is some rock that's going to have to be replaced during that part of the project. But in addition to that, Ray Reed gave us an estimate for all the siding.
Oh, okay. That's good.
You don't want that number.
Yeah.
Yeah, that number's a little steep.
No.
But the suggestion was from the original survey was that we try to attack a side of the building a year.
Okay.
Or 4-year program. And what I did not do when I asked for, what I did not do with Ray Reed when I asked for a quote was I didn't ask him to actually assess the wood to see if we would have to replace everything or just on the bottom level. Chances are we're probably going to have to replace everything, which means when we uncover it, like we found here in this building, when we uncover it, we're going to uncover other problems we're going to have to fix. All of which will require a request for substantial more money if we want to finish it in 4 years. From the voters.
Okay.
Are we working though on the basement piece first, the floodgate thing first,
That
before we
is-
do the outside of the building?
That has been,
Isn't it gonna fall down if we have another?
that has been what I'm primarily waiting for, is to finish the basement, get the basement finished and completed and make sure I'm not going to need any more money. The difficulty with the federal money is that we had to identify each portion of the project with a money amount. We don't like coloring outside of the lines. And so I'm not sure how, once I think I get all the bids back, I think then I go back and I see whether or not we can fit in each category or whether they'll give us more money. Initially, there was a return on investment type analysis that was done. And it sounds like we passed that in terms of whether or not it made sense to do the mitigation project at all. That was the big FEMA part.
And then separately on Memorial Hall is a lot of people were concerned about the underutilization of the building.
Yeah, what do you want to do about that?
I think we need to do something about it.
Oh, you missed town meeting. That's okay. You missed
You
town
missed
meeting.
town meeting. Yeah.
I know I did.
So,
Underutilization, Jesus H. Christ.
if,
Big
Yeah,
discussion.
that was interesting.
if the town and the select board in particular are at a point where we want greater utilization, I think we have to hire somebody to try to promote that, because the groups that were in place, I think, are aging out.
We could sell it.
Becky, I think you're gone.
Who'd want to buy
Well,
it?
well, you know what?
Not sell it.
That was discussed probably 20 years ago.
20 years ago, there was parking.
About selling it.
20 years ago, there was parking. So I have a question. I
Well,
saw
you're
the,
finding a- Okay, go ahead.
I saw on the news today
Yeah.
that people are losing their homeowners insurance because insurance carriers are using new technology to evaluate that they don't want to insure some of these buildings. Some residences,
What the technology?
drones, as a matter of fact, they're going over the roofs and stuff. And they give you a limited period of time to fix the roof,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
or we're not just not going to insure your house. The property is no longer worth insuring to the insurance provider. Do we have any kind of anticipation happening with something like that in
We were
Memorial Hall?
reassessed- We were reassessed last year.
Because we have some old buildings
About
on our,
leagues of cities and towns.
on our ledger.
But we're also in a pool, Tony.
Oh, that's good. That's
Okay,
what I'm
I-
asking.
we are reinsured, but we have a pool. And so that's our plan.
The assessor for leagues came personally to this town and looked at all the buildings. And yes, our assessments went up.
And some of the older buildings, the roofs do get inspected and repaired every year. They're on a schedule. Every year they're done.
Thank you.
No, insurance is gonna be the next big problem.
Yeah.
For homeowners.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, I've seen it too.
Yes.
Where they would take pictures of the roofs and then
Yeah.
I give them 30 days to have a chance. Well, they can leave the contract in
Can't
30
find
days.
it.
It's amazing.
Are
Anyway,
you speaking?
Themselves.
Am I
Are you
on?
speak- are you speaking? or-
no, I'm just
No
grumbling.
comments?
I'm just grumbling.
Are we set?
Yeah.
My turn?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about bridge number 31. Remember, it's this bridge right outside your window. So just a reminder, on June the 4th, we will have representatives from HC Transportation and another organization they're working with, which is VHB. They will have a meeting in this room. There, I sent you out a notice to show you that there are a lot of people who are being invited. And of course, we sent copies to Gretchen for her, any of her listserv, to Wilmington Works for their listserv, and for the chamber. I would imagine, as in meetings that are of interest to folks, that we'll get a fair amount of people in the building, and I'm also anticipating a number of people on Zoom. So remember, our capacity is 60 here, 63, I think. But usually when they're standing room only, sort of, it's going to be. So your meeting is at 6 p.m. They are pretty much
Come here.
the first portion of the meeting. Initially, they said an hour. So I think this is primarily for them to hear, listen, and maybe float some ideas. I'm not sure exactly where they are.
You're
Okay,
gonna
so,
provide a summary of the project?
yeah, it's your select board.
Yeah, but are they gonna summarize what they're planning to do?
Before the select board
Don't
meeting,
know.
and then
This is their outreach. They asked to be a part of the select board meeting until maybe an hour.
So basically, they don't know what.
Yeah, these are the scoping. This is the scoping.
This
Yeah,
is a
select
scope-
board meeting and
scope.
bridge scoping discussion.
We have to know what
Yeah.
they're doing to get comment. God, it's the state of Vermont. They don't know.
They've done some preliminary work. So one
John,
of
you
the
know,
things,
the state. for God's sake.
one of the things BHP did, so Wayne Simons has, I think, spoke in front of us here.
Yeah.
Not too long ago, and then we also had a private meeting, and a couple of weeks ago, he and a group, I think from VHB, who are working on this project, spent some time canvassing or talking to people, whoever they found on the street in the daytime. I did ask them if they talked to a few of the business owners, like our iconic dots, and they did. And they also had, they also wanted to view the basement that was, newly designed. So it does sound like they're moving along. I don't want to give up too much of where they're headed, but third week in June, I anticipate, based on what they're saying, that they'll make another repair on the deck of the bridge. That it may.
So are they putting speed bumps on there now? I mean, they've already got one growing. They might as
I
well
hope
throw in
not.
a couple more.
Anyhow, they will be back, and
Well, the only
they'll
reason,
be. So they did an inspection at the end of April and beginning of May, another inspection, and they think that the issue with the bridge may be further along than they think. Let me just leave it there. I don't want to take all the thunder. when
no,
they come
I
forward.
just want to make sure that if people come to this thing, that there's an explanation of what the state's thinking about.
They're trying to gain local knowledge, is what, as I anticipate it, and they hopefully will describe. I haven't talked to her in a while, but I will leading up to the meeting. But I believe they're still trying to gather information as well as give some indication of what they're seeing so far. How much detail at this point, I don't know, John.
Well, the public just wants to know what's the impact if there has to be major construction on that bridge.
They're trying to figure that out. As I understand it,
I mean, what's the route around it? I mean, that's what people are going to be concerned
Yes.
about.
I believe they have some alternatives.
Good.
I'm just gonna leave it there.
Are they gonna discuss?
Goodbye,
the-
Berkeley.
I hope so. I think the intention is to find out what the local view is and then to hopefully float some ideas. To get some better feedback, but
Local view as to where the temporary bridge should go, yeah. well,
yeah, it could be.
Yeah, the
Questions,
detours, they're all
questions,
dangerous.
concerns,
So-
thoughts, yeah.
So my concerns,
Or it can be worked on lane by
so
lane.
I've voiced my concerns because I've seen some of this elsewhere in the past. My concerns is the resiliency of local business primarily.
Yeah.
Not just that, but also traffic flow, pedestrian flow and things like that. But because of the majority of these businesses in this area that are going to be affected, restaurants have, I think, a more diverse population that visits, but I think some of the retail have more of a traveled population that visit because they're a lot of it has to do with novelties and Vermont centric kinds of things that you would go in there. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. But anyhow, I am concerned about the resiliency that and that this is built into the project to the degree that they can with the limited options that they have. So I have voiced that. Good. Okay. And I will talk to Laura again leading up to the meeting, which is coming up. But anyhow, Wayne Simons, the bridge was inspected, I said late April, so in early June, like the third week of June, they're making another repair. The expected major bridge work was tentatively set for 4 to 5 years out, in which case I would not be there. However, depending on the inspection, that could change. What they learned in Middlebury primarily was that the business owners in particular wanted some certainty in terms of when the bridge replacement would occur, in which case some business owners decided that they would go on vacation for 3 months and actually close up shop. Other business owners could actually plan for that moment and do whatever they needed to do to stay in business to the degree. So one of the interesting things is we have a marketing arm that we should not lose sight of in all of this. And we should be sure that we are marketing properly to bring business here still even during construction, despite whatever the routes are. But I mean, that's my feeling, is that we need to start thinking now and talking with that marketing arm in terms of what that would look like to make sure that people understand we're still in business.
Just another question.
They want any tax money to pay for it.
Repair. How long do they think it'll take to do the repair? Will they have traffic going across the repair?
No, the repair,
No,
not the
repair,
replacement.
Not the replacement.
They said,
Construction season's April through October or something. What's it?
they said they would be here the third week in June, and they would avoid the holiday.
Like, we have a little thing for 4th of July.
So I'm anticipating, I don't know, what time did the last repair was, what, a week? Less than a week. But again, they're gonna re-inspect at that same time. They're gonna, when they start digging up to to fix the deck, I think it looks like they're going to have inspectors down here at that time as they open up the bridge. Okay, so outreach is ongoing. June the 4th. If I said a different date, I didn't mean it. It's June the 4th, but we will have them here. Yeah. Okay, you received the follow-up memorandum from Wayne Elliott on the meeting that took place on April the 25th. Here's my question to you. In light of how busy June 4th will be, would you like to take that up? And I'm sorry, Tom and I really haven't had chance to talk about this. Would you like to take that up again on June 4th, or shall we schedule a special meeting after June 4th to look more closely at that memorandum?
I don't think we can put that all in on the 4th. That's not.
Okay, so let's plan on, we'll have to plan on a special.
Did the special meeting, because June's at the beginning of our summer.
Yeah, I heard that too.
So we'll do the same thing as we usually do on special meetings. We'll, Jess will send out a notice in terms of what's the best, and we'll try to schedule for 8:15 in the morning on that. My new friend at FEMA, and Marshall's new friend, Shirley Burl Henry, will be here on Wednesday. And we have a site inspection at the water access road, a redo of a site inspection on the water access road up to the lake on Thursday. And Chris and Marshall are going to host that tour. Oh no, tomorrow's a phone. Thursday you're having a visit. Okay.
What lake is it?
What are we calling the lake up there?
Lake, that's Crystal Pond.
No. Crystal?
Crystal Pond.
Yeah, where we get water, or we could get water.
So the pond, the Crystal Pond.
Okay, VEM Hazard Mitigation Grants Manager Lisa Cole. She issued the following notice to us this past week. And this is called a final public notice for, I have a number now, John, DR 4532, floodproofing of Memorial Hall project. So we had to distribute in the local newspaper and ask for a copy of the printed notice tear sheet, which can be provided by the newspaper staff, which Jessica has done. It was kindly done for me. So it appeared, the notice appeared in DVN on the 16th. Should clearly show the entire posting, name of publication, and so on. It's important to note, okay, this is in our regular places. It is important to note that the applicant needs to post the FPN, the notice, the public notice, as submitted with no personal edits included. Public notice has a 15-day comment period, after which FEMA will evaluate and address any comments received as part of the environmental review documentation for this project. So it was printed in Deerfield Valley News. 15 days will make it June the 1st. June the 1st. So we are on the road to receiving the grant is what it would appear. We did meet out at Lake Raponda Dam on the maintenance program with President Ann Loughran of Lake Raponda Association. And the engineer at the time had a conversation about some of the work that they're doing out there. in creating the maintenance program for us. Marshall and I were there. Marshall got to speak with him at length and get some ideas in terms of how much of the work that we might be able to perform ourselves. So, good.
I still say the state owns that dam.
I'd say I'd like to give it away.
There must be a way to research that, right?
Shoot, I don't believe.
Be nice to put on the state.
I
guess I'm done.
All right. Anybody else have anything for the good of Wilmington? Yes, Tony.
I'm just not sure about this one. Do we have to sign the liquor licenses or it's automatic?
Not
Thank you.
anymore.
So I thought, just want
They're
to
all
make sure.
electronic now.
That's
that?
so,
They're all electronic now.
Thank you.
AI is taking over.
Oh,
AI,
hey,
artificial intelligence.
It's all really managed at the
Okay.
clerk's level.
All right, if
That's what John's the shots.
if no one has any other thing this evening,
turn off
I
your,
will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right?
second.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?